Hi guys, Mary Languish here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about ways to make your art class fun and interesting. You might be looking at this video because you are either a parent that wants to teach art, you're an art teacher or just a teacher, or you're a homeschool parent, or just anyone who wants to teach art to somebody. This video is definitely for you. Now, this could apply to pretty much any teaching environment that you are going to be teaching art in. It's definitely geared towards those who have a little bit more freedom. So if you're in sort of a public or private school setting, some of this might not be something you can do because you have more restricted guidelines to stay within. However, I hope you can kind of glean some things that might benefit you and your class in making your art class more fun. Now, with my 20 plus years of teaching experience, I have found that this really works for pretty much any age. So we're talking from 5 all the way up to high school for sure. Maybe not so much for adults. Depends. I mean, a little bit. Some of it will. But just keep that in mind depending on what class you are sort of going to be teaching to see if some of this stuff will apply to your environment and the students you'll be teaching. So the very first thing I recommend when you are planning or going to be setting up a class is to think of a theme. So themes are huge when it comes to designing an art class. So examples of classes I've done in the past. One of them was called Plants in Watercolor. The whole class was me teaching them about watercolor techniques, but it had a theme. So we focused on plants of all different types, trees, small plants, big plants, flowers, whatever, you name it. We focused on plants. That was the theme for the class. There's also things like I've done places of the world. So the whole class is a mixed media class, but we travel around the world and study the different sort of major cities or major landmarks or architecture or structures or statues all across the world. So that's a good one. Exploring different art styles. So lots of famous art styles, different techniques, different famous artists. I'm going to be teaching something new this time called food art. So everything is going to be mixed media, but it's based around a sort of making art look like food, making food, or like making tacos out of paper, that kind of thing. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's a little bit younger ages. And then another one I've done before, very much themed, is costume design. It was more of a summer camp, shorter class type of setting, which was a lot of fun. So those are just some examples of themed art classes that I've done in the past that have been huge hits. So hopefully that gets your mind kind of moving. So that's the very first thing, is finding a theme. Now, when you have that theme, this falls under this category, is finding ways to emphasize that theme or support that theme throughout the class. So that might be things like having pictures around the classroom of plants when you're doing plants in watercolor. Or places of the world, I always have the students on the first class make a little passport, and then I stamp that passport every time we go to a new country with a fun little stamp that kind of goes with that country, right? That's a very fun, very simple way to incorporate that theme kind of on a daily basis. And then it's fun because they always ask you, what's the stamp going to be for today? Very, very fun sort of reinforcement of that theme. Sometimes I've done things where I dress up in a certain way. So I put on a costume that relates to the theme. And I do that every week. Usually that went for like a summer camp where you got 5 days in a row where you're trying to engage the theme. It could be a color theme. Each day is a different color emphasis you're focusing on. I'm going to wear that color. I might encourage my students to wear that color that day, right? That kind of thing. With the costume design class, I've done things like, and that's usually for an older age high school class, is and this very much incorporated the theme. We did lots of exercises. It was a summer camp to sort of work up to learning how to design costumes and outfits and fashion. And then I would give them middle of the week a fake client in a packet that had guidelines, specifics on the commission, on the project that they wanted their artist to do, and then they would have to create sort of sketches and ideas along the way, submit them to their client or their fake client, and then get feedback on that project, and then have to do a lot of their stuff and then get feedback again and get paid. So that was a really, really fun theme to sort of reinforce with, and you could do that in so many different ways with so many different mediums and so many different ages. So that's a great one. So those are just some ideas on how to create a theme and then how to incorporate that theme into some of your lessons or even just around the room. Like, it can be very simple, but those types of things are going to engage your students and make it just a blast when they come to art class. Second thing is you want to keep your instructions on the project each day, each class, simple, basic, to the point, short, so that you can give them a lot of time to work, right? That's kind of one of the things I focus on. Is a lot of my classes are like an hour long. It's not a lot of time for an art class, right? And so if you can keep your instructions and your demoing within 10 to 15 minutes, and they have the rest of the time to be working, because you want them to I mean, art's very much a hands-on thing. If you're not giving them that experience and actually trying things along the way, they're going to get bored, they're going to lose interest, right? They're going to get antsy, they're going to run out of time, and they're going to get frustrated, right? So really try to keep those things simple, to the point, and short and sweet, because your class is going to fly by anyway. It'll fly by even more when they're having fun, and they're going to remember that, and they're going to latch onto that, and they're going to just really enjoy your class because of some of those little attention to details that you are paying attention to. And then the third thing is you want to keep things kind of open-ended in terms of creativity. So this is in the project, but this is also after the project is finished. You want to kind of expect there to be a lot of free creativity. So with almost every project, I will give them guidelines of things they need to follow, especially if you're doing any grading or it's a required class for students. You obviously have to have things that they need to be following to be able to grade or give feedback on. So that is a non-negotiable side of things, but then give them flexibility, like, oh, you can choose whatever colors you want. Oh, you can choose whatever medium you want. You can choose whatever subject you want. Like, there's a lot of freedom within those boundaries. And you honestly don't want to give them just like a plate of everything. It's kind of like a kid in a candy store. They're gonna get overwhelmed, and they're gonna get frustrated, and they're not gonna like art class. Like, these are the things you want to try to limit. You want to give them boundaries, give them a box to work within, and they'll have so much freedom within that. More so than you think, you know? The kids can create amazing, crazy, different things from each other with the same guidelines. So really try to keep things open-ended enough, but have those boundaries, and that's going to really be beneficial for your students. To go along with that, have a backup project. Have a table maybe that has just some basic, simple art supplies. Maybe it's glue and scissors and paper and markers and crayons or something, like really something simple. And maybe it's got either some coloring sheets if you're into that, or just free paper with pencils. So then they can have some free draw or free creativity time if they finish their project. Because there's gonna be, almost every class you teach, there's kids that are just done. Even if you go back and you're like, oh, try to fix this, try to change that, try to instruct them, push them a little bit more, they're going to just be done, you know? And so it's kind of nice to have a little bit more of something to do for them. Otherwise, they're going to get bored and they're not going to like art class, right? So another way to kind of keep them engaged and to keep the time going quickly for them so that they have a fond memory of art class. And art class is all about, like, yes, giving them direction and teaching them tools, materials, skills, techniques along the way, right? Because that's the whole point of being an art teacher and teaching a class. But they need to have that freedom within that. You can't really teach creativity. You're trying to instill creativity, instill a lot of what makes art fun. And so you want to sort of have that freedom planned into your syllabus, into your classroom, into how you teach your classes. So don't forget about that, because that is super important. Another thing that I'm actually really bad at, but I put it in here because I had a sub for one of my classes once, and she's a apprentice student of mine who's an adult now, you know, but she subbed from one of my classes once, and she sort of introduced the question of the day. And I cannot tell you how every single class since she subbed, they're like, what's the question of the day? What's the question of the day? And I come with absolutely nothing because I forget. So poor kids are like trying to come up with the question of the day between themselves because I didn't do any planning. Sometimes I'll come up with one on the spot, but something like that is really, really fun, and you can keep it really themed and simple. It gets the kids kind of engaging with each other. It kind of depends on how big your class is and if you want talking to be happening. But I've kind of found it to be sort of a fun little engagement thing. So I don't know, something to think about and something to see if that works for your class. So those are some of my basic tips on how to kind of keep your art class fun, interesting, upbeat, and something that your students are going to come back again and again, hungry for learning and exploring and being creative. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, if it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Follow me for more art teaching help, content, ideas. That's what I'm here for, along with just other how-tos in terms of art, really anything. If you have any ideas for me on other videos, please let me know in the comments below. And just as a heads up, I am in the process of developing a mini course on how to develop a syllabus, teach, plan, set up, run your first art class. So if that's something that interests you, I hope to be getting that out this year. But please follow me. If you want to get on my email list, you can go to fragilegloryimpressions.com, and the very first thing you'll see is a prompt on the front page, a prompt to join my newsletter, my email list, so that you can kind of get in the loop on when those courses come out and any other things that I'm up to. But thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye!